Good afternoon, and thank you for making time out of your busy schedule to attend this webinar. I am Everett Igobua, Lead Educational Developer, Critical Pedagogies and Equity, Diversity and Inclusivity at the Center for Teaching and Learning. Our webinar today is the University of Alberta Strategic Plan for Equity, Diversity and Inclusivity, EDI and Your Teaching Practice, webinar number 3, Inclusion. The webinar will be about 15 minutes, followed by a Q&A session. Please submit your questions via the link in the chat, and you can additionally post your questions in the chat or ask them in person. The University of Alberta respectfully acknowledges that we are located on Treaty 6 territory, a traditional gathering place for diverse Indigenous peoples, including the Cree, Blackfoot, Métis, Iroquois, Dene, Ojibwe, Inuit, and many others whose histories, languages, and cultures continue to influence our vibrant community. This is webinar number 3 in a series of 8. Webinar number 1 was equity, while webinar number 2 was diversity. And the videos are on our CTL YouTube channel. Please review them. Equity, diversity, and inclusion are concepts that are intertwined. During this webinar, I will outline and overview the 8 principles of the EDI strategic plan. Additionally, I will discuss inclusion as it impacts learning and teaching. Our EDI strategic plan is guided by 8 principles: equity, diversity, inclusion, human rights, reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, accessibility, intersectionality, and equality substantive. At CTL, we have developed teaching and learning attributes for each of the 8 principles as follows. Equity is fair and just conditions in teaching and learning to allow students to realize their full potential. Diversity is multiple identities of students in our classrooms. Inclusion is valuing and nurturing the ideas, thoughts, perspectives, backgrounds, and identities of students. Human rights are fundamental rights in the classroom to be and belong as who we each are as whole people. Equality substantive is consciously addressing the range of conditions that deny equity to individual students and student demographics in the classroom. Conditions that create opportunities for identified disadvantaged students in the classroom. Intersectionality is the way that individual axes of oppression compound and interweave in who each person is in the classroom, and how these axes never exist separate from each other, but always interlocked. Accessibility refers to physical, pedagogical, and administrative structures designed and redesigned to foster, facilitate, and empower students' success. Reconciliation with Indigenous peoples means beginning in truth and moving toward the building and sustaining of respectful, responsible, and ethical relationships with Indigenous peoples and all those living across the nation we now call Canada. Our University of Alberta EDI strategic plan defines inclusion as follows. Inclusion means that we value and cultivate full and meaningful engagement of historically and structurally excluded individuals and groups. Inclusion refers to enabling all individuals on our campuses to fully enjoy the opportunities the university has to offer and to have all equity-seeking groups meaningfully represented in all aspects of university life and decision-making roles university-wide. A few social location determinants alongside equity, diversity, and inclusion that impact our learners in the classroom are ability, ethnicity, religion or belief system, social class, geographic location, gender, sexual orientation, age, race, privilege, or oppression. Building on the theory of othering by post-colonial scholar Edward Said in his 1978 book, Orientalism, Mary Canals, a nursing professor at the University of Wisconsin in 2000, proposes inclusionary othering, and I quote, usually seen as the opposite of exclusionary othering, which uses power in relationships for domination and subordination. Inclusionary othering is a constructive, positive process to connect with people through their differences and uses power in relationships for transformation and coalition building, end of quote. So inclusionary othering is an attempt to appreciate differences in people by building bridges in an effort to connect them. Additionally, leveraging power in relationships in the classroom between students with the teacher, instructor, and professor. Nurturing inclusivity in our teaching practice helps to address the student diversity that exists in our classroom. It is important for us as educators to intentionally create safe learning spaces for students. To this end, the ideal classroom is a space that offers physical, pedagogical, and emotional safety. My colleague Anita Parker, lead educational developer, online and hybrid instruction and strategy, has a webinar on the CTL YouTube channel that addresses teaching with compassion. Please review it for more strategies. We need to endeavor to make our students feel welcomed in the classroom, especially with some transitioning from high school or others returning back to school. An inclusive classroom will better assist our students in settling down as they adjust to post-secondary learning. And these adjustments are also further determined by the reality of social location. Inclusive course design is a strategy that may assist in navigating EDI issues in the classroom. Additionally, decolonizing the course content enables us to weave diverse perspectives in our courses. An example that comes to mind was shared by a professor in the Faculty of Medicine in their dermatology course, where the textbook does not represent all skin types. That said, the professor found an open education resource online that solved the predicament. We can endeavor to collaborate with the students in order to identify barriers in the course, be they equity, diversity, or inclusivity, and strategize together on ways to mitigate this. Using open educational resources, peer-reviewed journal articles, contemporary case studies, videos, and inviting guest lecturers may assist in nurturing inclusive content in the course. An inclusive syllabus revised collaboratively by students and the instructor may incorporate an EDI lens, and this is in an effort to build a cohesive learning environment with compassion, hence valorizing students as whole people. Information presented in the course syllabus ought to support student learning, promote student success, point students to campus supports, demystify accommodation processes, and so on. Universal Design for Learning, UDL, may inform your course design, redesign in order to nurture EDI in your course creation and teaching practice. Next Wednesday, June the 8th, I will facilitate a UDL webinar. Inclusive assessment is a broad topic, and I will only highlight here in passing. That said, CTL has several webinars addressing assessment and academic writing that are being offered by my colleagues, Mandy George, lead educational developer, digital pedagogies and writing across the curriculum, and Brad Ambry, lead educational developer, assessment and evaluation. Nurturing inclusive classroom practice may include promoting the use of inclusive language in the classroom. This is a learning curve for all, where learning and relearning will take place in an effort to achieve this goal. Championing EDI literacy in your classroom may result in a collaborative project with your students to include an equity, diversity, and inclusivity statement in the course syllabus. And the EDI statements may be revised annually by the instructor and students. It is important for all in the classroom to be addressed with the pronouns they identify with. Also learning their names and learning to pronounce them properly. Additionally, it is helpful to use gender-neutral words and terminology in the classroom as we champion gender diversity. Tommy Mayberry, Executive Director, CTL, has developed and facilitated a webinar on gender pronouns that you can access via the CTL YouTube channel. Here are some inclusive pronouns from the University of New York website. So that's the first slide, and that is the second one. Inclusive pedagogy works when educators build bridges for students by demonstrating how the learning and the course harmonize with their career goals of students. This project may be conducted as a group activity. Additionally, the instructor may use their office hours to nurture EDI principles with individual students, as well as nurturing student-centered strategies, which I addressed in my equity webinar while referencing the banking system by educator Paulo Freire, author of Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Discussion groups, as well as breakout rooms in the virtual classroom, foster inclusive pedagogy. Additionally, incorporating collaborative assignments through group work or cooperative learning exemplifies EDI pedagogy in our practice. Please review my team-based learning webinar on the CTL YouTube channel in case you are interested. Discussion groups enhance peer learning, peer mentoring, student engagement, active learning, and student-centered learning. EDI principles may be considered when we engage in collaborative tasks in the classrooms, such as organically creating community agreements for classroom discussion. And here is an example. Agreements for discussion are where everyone's opinion is important, listening attentively to others, and I might add, listening with the intention to understand and not to answer. Then seek clarification, empirical evidence for opinions, only relevant issues, agree to disagree respectfully, learn how to refer to peers respectfully, and this is with preferred pronouns. In conclusion, student diversity is a reality in our learning spaces, and this impacts equity and diversity. EDI remains an integral parameter for us to use to redefine our pedagogy as educators as we discuss inclusivity. Here are 3 questions that you may reflect on as an innovative EDI educator, and I'm going to read them. Is my teaching practice inclusive? The second one, how can I make my teaching practice inclusive? And the final question, how can I be a more critically conscious EDI educational leader? I have discussed several concepts during this webinar. If you wish to explore them in detail, you can schedule a consultation request by visiting our CTL webpage. I will quickly display my references for this webinar. Thank you once again for your time.